In the early years of Google's Nexus program, the brand name increased in popularity as Google and its partner manufacturers created a series of high-quality handsets sold at a low cost. In the fall of 2014, Google deviated from that trend with the release of the ultra-high-end Nexus 6 phablet by Motorola. While the phone was well received despite its large size, fans of the Nexus brand still expressed an interest in a budget-minded Nexus smartphone. To answer that demand, Google partnered with veteran Nexus partner LG to create a 2015 budget handset bearing the Nexus name. How's it going, everybody? This is Matt D, and this is my full review of the Google Nexus 5X. The build materials of the 5X brought back memories of the original Nexus 5 as soon as I picked up the phone. I like the placement of the power button on the 5X as opposed to the power button of the 2013 Nexus 5, which was near the top right corner of that device. While the phone does offer a decent feel in the hand, I'm a little disappointed in the durability of the phone's soft touch plastic. So if you plan on purchasing the 5X, I would strongly recommend purchasing a case to protect the phone. On the front of the device, the 5X features a 5.2-inch 1080p screen with a pixel density of 423 ppi. While LG has placed speaker grills on either side of the display, the top one solely functions as the phone's earpiece. Unlike the Huawei-built Nexus 6P I reviewed in another video, LG's Nexus 5X does not feature stereo speakers. To the left of the earpiece, the Nexus 5X has a 5-megapixel front-facing camera with an aperture of f2.0. At the top of the phone, you'll find a microphone for noise cancellation. On the left side of the device, there's a nano SIM tray. On the right side of the Nexus 5X, LG has placed the handset's power button above its volume rocker. Finally, on the bottom of LG's budget-minded Nexus handset, you'll find a headphone jack, a microphone, and a USB Type-C charging port. While that charging port is capable of a form of fast charging, it's not the official Qualcomm quick charging standard. Under the surface, the Nexus 5X is powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 808 system on a chip, accompanied by an Adreno 418 GPU and 2 GB of RAM. As for internal storage, the unit shown in this video only comes with 16 GB of built-in storage, while there is a 32 GB model available as well. Like the Nexus 6 and Nexus 6P, the Nexus 5X is capable of connecting to virtually any mobile operator via LTE, GSM, and CDMA networks. All three phones are optimized for Google's Project Fi wireless service that I'll be talking about later in the video. On the back of the 5X, you'll notice the 12.3 megapixel rear camera housed in a round hump, slightly more pronounced than the so-called visor that encompasses the rear camera on the Nexus 6P. Fortunately, this protruding camera does not cause the 5X to rock back and forth too much when using the phone on a flat surface. To the left of the rear camera, LG has added a dual LED flash and a sensor for laser autofocus. Below the camera components, you'll find Google's Nexus Imprint fingerprint scanner. When Android Marshmallow was released, Google introduced Now on Tap, the Doze battery saving feature, and user-defined app permissions. Now in 2016, Android 7.0 Nougat adds a wealth of new features to Google's mobile operating system on the Nexus 5X. Let's start with Android Nougat's redesigned notification shade. With one swipe down from the top of the screen, Google gives you access to a small set of quick toggles including Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, invert colors, do not disturb, and mobile data. A second swipe down will display redesigned app notifications that now stretch across the entire width of the screen. Plus, with Android Nougat, the user can finally reply to notifications from certain apps directly from the notification shade. Finally, with a third swipe, the standard Android quick toggles will now show up, this time with a second page to house even more toggle switches. Another major addition to Google's latest iteration of Android is a new multi-window feature similar to what can be found on Samsung's and LG's latest flagship phones. While this is a great addition to larger phones like the 5X's sibling, the Huawei Nexus 6P, I don't believe I'll be using this feature as much on the 5X. In addition to the split-screen multitasking feature, a double tap on the recent apps key will take you back to your previously opened app. Through the release of Android 7.0, Google has further enhanced the Doze battery saving feature through Doze on the Go, which forces the Nexus 5X to run in a low power mode while the phone is idle in your pocket. In addition to the redesigned notification shade, the multitasking features, and Doze on the Go, Google has expanded upon its collection of emojis in the official keyboard. At its very core, Android 7.0 Nougat offers support for the new Vulkan API for better in-game graphics, as well as Daydream, which will enhance the VR experience on select future Android devices. Alongside the redesigned notification shade, multi-window feature, and the system UI tuner menu that I mentioned in my Nexus 6P review, I also want to go over some minor improvements to certain aspects of stock Android 7.0. The stock Android settings menu has been redesigned with the release of Android Nougat. Below a list of suggested actions, Google has added small subtitles to each function in the settings screen. For example, the Wi-Fi tab under Wireless and Networks will display the name of the Wi-Fi network that your device is connected to. This redesigned menu will also show you how much data you've used, your screen brightness, your ringer volume, and battery percentage, among other things. Another great addition of the Settings app can be revealed with a swipe out from the left edge of the screen. This brings out a sidebar that gives the user quick access to the many tabs within the Settings app without the extra details. One of my favorite new features of Android Nougat is a long overdue Clear All button in the Recent Apps screen. After opening several apps and a long list of web pages, the Recent Apps screen can become quite cluttered and difficult to navigate through. Anyway, I'm glad this new Clear All button was added into the operating system. Before moving on to the camera portion of this review, I want to touch on my thoughts regarding the Nexus imprint sensor on the 5X. Like what I said in my videos on the Nexus 6P, I appreciate the fact that LG and Google placed the Nexus imprint sensor on the rear of the phone. Not only is a rear-mounted fingerprint scanner easier to activate, but it frees up space to accommodate front-facing speakers. The rear of the Nexus 5X houses a 12.3 megapixel sensor by Sony with an aperture of f2.0, laser autofocus, and a dual LED flash. The 5X's rear camera can shoot video in up to 2160p at 30 frames per second. Moving around to the phone's front-facing shooter, that camera features a 5 megapixel sensor with an aperture of f2.0. Since the Nexus 5X has the same rear camera as its Huawei-built sibling, many of the same observations from my testing of the 6P's camera will apply here as well. For example, when I took pictures with the 5X, the phone was able to capture a lot of images with the same saturated punchy colors, while I was able to get a nice bokeh effect on images off in the background. Plus, many of my outdoor shots taken in the daytime looked quite good. Unfortunately, low-light photographs weren't that impressive as they included an abundance of noise. Now that I've shown you still pictures produced by the 5X, here are a couple of brief video samples recorded on the rear and front cameras on the Nexus 5X. When testing the 5X, I ran performance benchmarks using Antutu, Geekbench, and Quadrant. I evaluated the phone's cellular connectivity using speedtest.net, LTE Discovery, and OpenSignal. Antutu gave my Nexus 5X a score of 58,889, while Quadrant gave the phone a score of 18,298. Finally, Geekbench gave my 5X a single-core score of 649, along with a multi-core score of 2,462. The Qualcomm Snapdragon 808 rarely stuttered while playing demanding games. Plus, the phone only produced occasional lag while executing everyday tasks. While the 5X didn't become uncomfortably hot during prolonged use, most heat generated by the phone's internal components was concentrated just below the rear camera. When I tested the cellular connectivity of the Nexus 5X, I used the device in Metro Atlanta on Google's Project Fi wireless service, which piggybacks on T-Mobile US, Sprint, and Wi-Fi hotspots. The phone clocked download speeds ranging between 1.63 megabits per second and 45.47 megabits per second, along with upload speeds ranging between 0.8 and 20.4 megabits per second. To drill down even further, my unit usually latched onto T-Mobile's Band 4, as well as bands 26 and 41 on Sprint. After reporting unusually limited screen on times in my Nexus 5X so far video, I adjusted my usage habits in an effort to get more accurate results. When reviewing the phone's battery performance, I would often keep screen brightness at about 75%. In addition to that, I would take advantage of Wi-Fi when available with cellular data turned off. I kept NFC and Bluetooth turned off as I rarely had a need to use them. Finally, I would typically disable everything except voice calls before bed. During the review period, my unit was able to get as much as 3.5 hours of screen on time. These results were based on my own personal usage habits, so keep in mind, your mileage might vary. While the Nexus 6P had front-facing stereo speakers, the smaller 5X has one speaker below the phone's display. While the lone speaker did produce ample volume, the overall sound quality was rather tinny. Here's a quick speaker test. If you're looking for a good quality yet fairly compact phone running stock Android, I think the Nexus 5X is still a great choice, although the phone is now a year old. In the final year of the Nexus program, Google finally offered a device that carried both the Nexus name and an exceptional rear camera. In my time reviewing LG's final Nexus device, I was very impressed with the still images and videos produced by the Sony IMX377 rear camera. While the 5X has one front-facing speaker, the sound it produces is rather tinny, although it produces adequate volume. I would have appreciated stereo speakers similar to those found on the 6P. Also, while I enjoy many of the new features available in Google's latest flavor of Android, I can't see myself taking advantage of the popular multi-window feature on the 5X's 5.2-inch display. As I mentioned in my comprehensive review of Google's 2015 flagship, Huawei's Nexus 6P, Google has brought an end to the Nexus brand, replacing it with a new product line called Pixel. Since the release of the LG Nexus 4, the Nexus brand name has become synonymous with high-quality pure Android smartphones sold at budget-friendly prices. The Nexus 5X carried on that same philosophy when it was released alongside the more expensive Nexus 6P. Now, with the new Pixel and Pixel XL, Google has set its sights on selling a phone designed to compete directly with phones like the iPhone 7 and Samsung Galaxy S7. While Google wants to target the average consumer with the new Pixel phones, critics have said that Google is leaving its core target market of developers and tech enthusiasts behind. Has Google made the right move by starting over with a new brand name? Only time will tell. The Nexus program began as an experiment by Google that promoted the pure Android experience to developers and hardcore Android fans. Although Google has reimagined its vision of an Android smartphone with its new Pixel brand aimed at the average consumer, Google's new in-house devices certainly have big shoes to fill. If you like this look back at Google's final two Nexus devices, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up down below and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.